3 days after a powerful magnitude 7.4 earthquake struck western Colombia, rescue teams are still searching through collapsed buildings in a rapidly narrowing race to find survivors. The latest government figures report at least 265 deaths, 496 people missing, and 3,494 injuries. A separate estimate cited by Reuters placed the number of injured at about 3,770, showing how quickly the totals continue to change as reports arrive from hospitals, local governments, and isolated communities.
Ahí la casa de la vecina. Puta, mi casa.
This is already Colombia's deadliest and most destructive earthquake of the 21st century. The full scale of the disaster, however, remains uncertain. Communications are still limited in parts of Chocó near the epicenter, and assessment teams have not yet reached every rural or indigenous community affected by the shaking.
Ay, ay, ay.
The earthquake struck at 7:34 a.m. local time on Monday, August 10. The U.S. Geological Survey reviewed the event at magnitude 7.4. Manizales placed its epicenter about 5 kilometers or 3 miles east of San José del Palmar in Chocó department. The quake originated at a depth of approximately 107 kilometers or 66 miles. According to the USGS, the earthquake was caused primarily by strike-slip faulting.
Dios mío, protégenos, Dios mío.
Padre Santo.
¡No!
¿Qué hacemos?
¡No, no!
Despite its considerable depth, the quake sent powerful shaking across a wide area of western and central Colombia. It was felt in Bogotá and across the neighboring countries of Ecuador and Panama. The most severe destruction has been reported in Cali, Pereira, Manizales, Quibdó, and communities throughout Colombia's Coffee Axis and western valleys. Pereira and Cali have recorded some of the highest confirmed death tolls. Reuters reported 83 deaths in Pereira and 74 in Cali in its August 12 update. Those city-level numbers remain provisional and may be revised as victims are identified and local reports are reconciled with the national. In both cities, entire buildings collapsed into dense piles of concrete, steel, furniture, and shattered glass. Roads buckled, vehicles were crushed, and hospitals and schools sustained damage. Thousands of residents have been forced to sleep in parks, temporary shelters, or open public spaces because their homes were destroyed or because they fear that damaged buildings could fail during an aftershock. Rescue crews have concentrated on structures where sensors, search dogs, witnesses, or relatives indicate that people may still be alive. In Cali, teams were focusing on 7 collapsed buildings, including the Torres del Limonar residential complex. Police restricted access around some rescue zones to reduce noise and vibration, allowing specialists to listen for movement beneath the debris and operate sensitive detection equipment. The first 48 to 72 hours after a major building collapse are often considered the most important period for finding survivors. That window was approaching its end on Wednesday, but officials stressed that rescue operations would continue wherever there were signs of life. One rescue in Pereira offered a rare moment of hope. Daniela Largo, 32, was pulled alive from the ruins of a collapsed building after spending roughly 36 to 38 hours trapped beneath the debris. A large team of firefighters, medical workers, and rescue specialists spent hours freeing her after part of her arm was pinned. She received medical treatment during the operation before being carried to an ambulance as rescuers and residents applauded. Other families are still waiting beside destroyed homes and apartment buildings, hoping for news of relatives who remain missing. President Abelardo de la Espriella said the official missing person count stood at nearly 500. Civilian databases have listed more than 4,100 names, but those lists may include duplicate reports or people who have not yet contacted their families. For accuracy, this article uses the government's confirmed figure of 496 while acknowledging that reconciliation of the lists is continuing. The Colombian Geological Survey had documented approximately 130 aftershocks by Wednesday. Reports indicated the strongest reached magnitude 4.8. These tremors have repeatedly forced rescuers to pause, move away from unstable structures, and conduct additional safety inspections before returning to the rubble. Seismologists have said that aftershocks are expected following an earthquake of this size, although the probability of another event of similar magnitude in the same area is considered low. Damage assessments are also expanding rapidly. Officials estimated that more than 9,550 homes had been destroyed and that over 2,800 families had been affected. Hospitals, schools, water systems, electricity networks, telecommunication infrastructure, and key transportation routes have all sustained damage. The totals are likely to change because engineers have not completed inspections in many districts. Conditions are especially difficult in Chocó, the department closest to the epicenter. It is a region of dense jungle, deep poverty, limited road access, and communities that can sometimes be reached only by river. Cell service has failed in several areas, slowing efforts to determine casualties and urgent humanitarian needs. Aid organizations already operating in the region have redirected personnel and supplies toward earthquake relief, but authorities warn that the picture from remote communities remains incomplete. The disaster has also disrupted Colombia's economically vital coffee region. The country is one of the world's largest coffee producers, and hundreds of thousands of families depend on the industry. Operations at the Pacific port of Buenaventura were paused while authorities assessed damage and landslide risks along important access roads. The Colombian Coffee Growers Federation said exports were continuing, with shipments being redirected mainly through Caribbean ports. President de la Espriella, who was inaugurated only 3 days before the earthquake, has declared an economic emergency and promised to establish a reconstruction fund for homes, hospitals, schools, and damaged infrastructure. The government has activated national emergency coordination, deployed search and rescue teams, and worked with regional authorities to manage shelters, security, medical care, and the distribution of supplies. The scale of the response is becoming international. The United States has offered more than $15 million in assistance and sent disaster response personnel. Mexico delivered food and rescue support with additional personnel and supplies placed on standby. El Salvador offered 2 aircraft carrying humanitarian aid, while Peru and other regional partners also began providing assistance. The European Union announced €2 million in support for communities in the hardest hit areas. Authorities in several affected cities have introduced nighttime curfews amid concerns about looting and public safety. At the same time, volunteers have played a major role in the response, forming human chains to remove debris, organized donations, preparing food, and helping families locate missing relatives. Officials have asked volunteers to follow instructions around collapse sites so heavy equipment, search dogs, and acoustic sensors can operate safely. The emergency is now entering a difficult transition. Search teams remain focused on finding survivors, but the government must also shelter thousands of displaced people, restore damaged hospitals and utilities, reopen transportation links, and begin a long reconstruction process. The needs will be greatest in communities that were already struggling with poverty, displacement, and limited public services before the earthquake. The confirmed death toll is likely to change again as rescue teams enter additional buildings and authorities reach isolated areas. The number of missing people may also fall as families are reunited and duplicate reports are removed, or rise as more communities regain communication. For now, 265 deaths, 496 missing people, and at least 3,494 injuries represent the latest government figures available on August 13. They should be treated as provisional, not final. Behind every changing number is a family waiting for an answer, a community facing enormous loss, and a rescue team still working against time.